Okay, so Kevin, you're up from Washington,
I am.
and you're up in the newsroom, and what we're
good to be
doing.
in Maine.
Oh, good. So it's a Friday, and we got lots of work to do, but everybody just wants to talk about politics. And I was just wondering, from what you've seen down there, if you can shed any light on what we've been hearing last couple of days about the gubernatorial race. The interesting thing to me is I was under the impression that Mike Michaud has been under a lot of pressure to make a decision and decide to run for governor or announce whether he's going to run or not run. And what's your sense of that? Was he getting a lot of pressure down there?
I don't know as much pressure he's been getting in Washington. He's certainly been under a lot of pressure up here in Maine. A lot of Democrats view him as their best hope for getting back into the Blaine House. So yeah, I think that a lot of the party faithful have been urging him to run, and Congressman Michaud has been really debating about whether to get into this race versus to run again for the House. So I think more of the pressure has been here in Maine, in Washington. Although I'm sure it's been a topic of conversation with the Democratic Party in Washington.
Yeah, is it the same fundraising mechanism to raise money for Congress or raise money for a gubernatorial run? Will he have to go to different people now? Will he have to?
Yeah, he certainly has to focus most of his fundraising on Maine people, obviously. In Congress, political action committees are a huge source of funds for all members of Congress. But PACs, as they're known, they don't contribute typically. A lot of these national PACs don't contribute to gubernatorial races. So he'll have to focus most of his fundraising here in Maine. He obviously does that already for his congressional race. But the federal rules are different than the state rules. There are different contribution limits. So, and he would not be allowed, he would not be allowed to take virtually any of his money that he's raised in his congressional race and transfer it to the Maine race. So he has, he's sitting on quite a sum of money right now, even though he was just elected. But he wouldn't be able to transfer that to the race for governor.
So is that why you think this phase is an exploratory phase and not an announcement that he's in? I mean, is it a sense is he going to be able to put together the cash to run?
I think the fundraising part is a key thing that he's trying to figure out, and that's why they set up the exploratory committee. If you look at the website that he set up, there's a big prominent, as I mentioned today, donate button. And even when I talked to him yesterday, he acknowledged that this is an important part. Gubernatorial races cost a lot of money to run, and he has an advantage in that he has high name recognition, but he's down in Washington. So fundraising can be a little bit more challenging when you have to be in Washington for Congress.
Yes.
So I think this was a way for him to put a little teaser out there to see how much financial support as well as moral support he gets from Mainers.
One of the things I kept hearing was people who didn't think he was going to run said that he seemed very happy in Congress and that he was effective. He was a ranking member on a committee. And was that your sense? I mean, is he trying to escape Washington, or does he?
No, I don't get the impression that he is trying to escape Washington at all. I think he's as you mentioned, he's the ranking, which means the top Democrat on the House Veterans Affairs Committee. And veterans is one of the issues that he has really developed a name for in Washington. He's pretty much a lower profile House member in other respects, but on veterans issues he has become a higher profile figure. And since he's the top ranking Democrat, if the Democrats should reclaim the House, which doesn't look very likely right now in 2 years or year and a half, but if they should do that, he would be in line to become the committee chairman, which is one of the most powerful members in the House.
So giving all that up.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the race? What do you see as Michaud's strengths?
Well, I've always thought that he was the strongest Democrat, the most likely Democrat to be able to win statewide. It's the party has a pretty small bench, a short bench. There's really just the two Congress people who could make a realistic run at it, and he seems stronger of our two Congress people just because of his base in the 2nd District. And you look at the people who have won statewide races. Almost all of them are from the 2nd District, starting with the governor, going all the way back to Mitchell and Cohen and
Baldacci.
Snow, Collins. I mean, it's just it seems like it's easier to get yourself known down here after you're already established up there than the other way around. The other thing is I haven't really crunched the numbers, but my guess is that he outperformed both of the two non-LePage candidates in the last gubernatorial race in the 2nd district. So there were probably people who voted for Michaud and LePage. Right. And if they're both guys are on the same ballot, it's going to be they're going to have to make a choice. And I think he's the only Democrat that cuts into the governor's base, which has been unbelievable. If you look at the polls, starting with right after the primary in 2010, he's had about 39% in every single poll, including election day. And I mean, sometimes it goes up to 40, sometimes it goes down to 38. But
it hasn't changed since
But it
election day
doesn't
almost.
change, yeah. And everything he does seems to be geared at making those people happy and not really paying attention to the rest of the state. So I think a candidate that could even chip into that a little bit is going to be very strong.
Right. And what's your thoughts on Michaud versus Cutler? That was obviously the big debate after 2010 between Libby Mitchell and Cutler, and how they divided the Democratic and the more moderate vote.
Yeah.
Where do you see that falling at this point?
It's everybody I talk to on that side, on the sort of Democrat progressive side, is saying that they're going to be very strategic this time around. I think you're going to see very little early voting. I think people are going to be watching the polls very carefully.
Because that was an issue.
That was it.
Back in 2010,
yeah.
Right? The people cast their votes for Libby Mitchell several weeks beforehand, and then the tide turned, and Cutler was starting to surge, right?
And that was a big part of the Democratic Get Out the Vote campaign, was to get people to vote absentee, to try to lock those votes up early. And I think that's not going to happen this time. I think people are going to wait and see who is the most realistic challenger. And I think they're going to be very strategic about it, and I think they are not going to be nitpicking on specific issues, not like who's got the slightly better education policy. I think it's going to be the key threshold issue is going to be who could win. And the Democrats are saying today that Michaud has polls that show he has a path to victory, but that their polls show that Cutler does not. And I'm sure Cutler has different polls, and we'll be all hashing through those numbers. It's a long way off. It's a year and a half away, so I think we'll have lots of time to look at the numbers.